Hello, good day. Welcome to our second session for discussing yung psychodynamic theory ni Sigmund Freud. Kung hindi mo pa napanood yung first video, I suggest panoorin mo muna yon before you watch this video. There are many concepts here na magigets mo lang kapag naintindihan mo yung mga sinabi ko doon sa first video. So again, panoorin mo muna yon before you watch this. Let's start talking about part 2 of our discussion on the psychodynamic theory of Sigmund Freud. First video, ito yung mga natutunan natin. There are three levels of the psyche, the conscious, subconscious, and the unconscious. And according to Freud, malaking chunk ng ugali natin nanggagaling sa unconscious. In this lecture video, malalaman nyo pa yung iba't ibang mga forces na nasa unconscious that continuously affect our personality. Number 2, we learned that there are three psychological energies that constantly affect yung ating personality, the id, ego, and the superego. The differences among the three I discussed in the first video. Pag-usapan na natin ngayon yung pangatlong prinsipyo ng psychodynamic theory. Personality development undergoes 5 stages. Although si Sigmund Freud hindi naman siya developmental psychologist, but he has something to say about human development, specifically sa ating pag-uugali. Naniniwala si Sigmund Freud na yung kaugalian ng tao hindi naman yan nabubuo overnight, no? Meron tayong mga stages na pinagdaraanan that may explain kung bakit naging ganyan ang ugali mo. Ito yung tinatawag niyang psychosexual stages: oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital. So yung mga psych majors out there listening to me, I'm sure you are already familiar with the psychosexual stages. Pero para mas maintindihan natin yung psychosexual stages, one important term that we really need to understand ay yung tinatawag nating erogenous zone, also known as pleasure centers. Ito yung parte ng katawan natin, according to Freud, that when we stimulate, when we hold, when we touch, gives us extreme pleasure o kasarapan. Masarap siyang i-stimulate. Sabi ni Freud, yung erogenous zone na yan, it moves from one body part to the other. 0 to 18 months na sa bibig, 1.5 to 3 years na sa anus, 3 to 6 years old na sa genital, and then dormant siya from 7 to 12, lalabas ulit yan sa genital at around age 13 and up. So, according to Freud, itong paggalaw ng erogenous zone na ito, dito nakasalalay yung pagbuo sa ating personality. How does that happen? Let's quickly discuss. Simulan natin yung nangyayari sa oral stage from 0 to 1.5 years. The main goal of children during this time is to give themselves pleasure. Remember, during these times, during infancy especially, ang mga bata, puro id energy yan. As you remember, id is all about pleasure. It's all about being selfish. It's all about giving the self worldly desires. At ganyan ng mga babies, di ba? Gustong-gusto lang nila yung nakaka-experience ng sarap. Kapag walang sarap, iiyak, regardless of what other people will feel. Kasi nga, babies are all id energies. The most favorite na ginagawa nila to give themselves pleasure is, again, stimulating their mouth. Because during this time, the erogenous zone is in the mouth. So tuwing ang bata may nilalagay sa kanilang mga bibig, nagbibigay sa kanila yan ng pleasure. At isa sa pinakapaborito nila na ginagawa to give themselves pleasure is to suck on milk coming from the breast of the mother or from the milk bottle na binibigay sa kanila. Basta tuwing sip-sip sila ng milk, it gives them extreme pleasure. Dito na ngayon papasok yung personality. Sabi ni Freud, how the mother gives baby the milk that gives them pleasure will determine what kind of personality they will have in the future. Ano ngayon ang koneksyon ng paano ka magbigay ng gatas sa ugali ng bata? There are two ways daw, sabi ni Freud, that may affect a child's personality. Una, you can orally deprive the baby. Ibig sabihin, kulang. Hindi mo masyadong binibigay yung pangangailangan ng baby, meron daw personality effects yan as the baby grows older. The other side naman, overly gratified, lagi mo naman binibigyan ng gatas yung bata, meron na namang personality effects yan. So whether you are orally deprived or overly gratified, merong mga epekto yan sa ugali mo when the baby grows older. Kapag kulang, hindi mo masyadong binibigyan ng gatas yung baby, the baby in the future becomes attention seeker, nagiging bitter siya sa mundo, nagiging untrusting siya sa mga tao. You translate that in the Big Five model, mababa ang kanyang agreeableness, and these people become orally fixated. Ibig sabihin yan, ng orally fixated, malaki na sila, adult na sila, but they are still looking for milk substitute na hindi nila nakuha when they were younger. And these people who are orally fixated, yung mga substitutes na nahanap nila can be, for example, through cigarettes or through drinking. Kaya kung may kakilala kang hindi tigil yung paninigarilyo, hindi maitigil yung pag-iinom, hindi matigil yung pagnguya ng bubble gum, o meron siyang nail-biting behaviors, posibleng ang mga ito is the reflection of their oral deprivation when they were younger. Noong mga bata pa sila, hindi sila ganun ka naasikaso ng kanilang mothers, hindi ganun karami yung milk na naibigay sa kanila, so they became orally fixated. Doon naman sa kabila, pag overly gratified naman, the person in the future becomes dominant, demanding, selfish, immature, or in general, nagiging personality ng bata. 'Di ba? Baka may kakilala kayong ganyan, katanda-tanda na, pero kung umasta parang bata. Reason? Maybe that person, when they were younger, they were overly gratified. Masyado silang na-spoil nung nanay. Kaya gusto nila, o akala nila ang mundo, ganun mag-function. Lahat sinusunod ang gusto nila ngayon din. So, hindi rin maganda ang ino-orally over-gratified ang bata. No? So, how do you shape a healthy oral stage according to Sigmund Freud? Well, according to him, going back to the diagram, dapat bandang gitna ka. Hindi maganda ang bata dinideprive mo orally, hindi rin maganda ang bata overly gratified. Somewhere in between, that's the ideal. And whenever I teach this idea, you remember what Freud said about ego? Diba? Ego is about moderation. Ang ego ang umaawat o ang nagbe-breach sa id at sa superego. It's the most practical part of our personality. So, ang sinasabi ni Freud dito, dapat in moderation lang yung pagbibigay ng gatas sa bata. Hindi orally deprived, hindi rin naman overly gratified. This will make way to a healthy personality. So, makikita na naman natin dito yung idea, yung Freudian idea of moderation. Let's now move on to the anal stage. Ano naman ang nangyayari sa anal stage? From 1.5 years old to 3 years old, the erogenous zone na pupunta naman sa puwet, anal or the anus, the anal muscles. The main goal of children during this time is toilet training. Tinetrain sila ng mga magulang nila during this time na mag-control ng anal muscles para maging maayos yung pag-release ng human waste. According to Freud, meron daw dalawang possible outcomes when parents train their children for toilet training. Ang bata pwedeng maging anally expulsive, ibig sabihin poor ang toilet training. Hindi sila nasanay na magpigil. Tuwing meron silang nararamdaman na pupo, i-release kaagad nila anytime, anywhere. Meron na mga bata anally retentive, ang ganda naman ng toilet training sa kanila. They learn how to hold on to their human waste. Nakokontrol nila yung anal muscles nila to hold on. Again, sabi ni Freud, whether a child is anally expulsive or anally retentive, meron na namang epekto yan sa kanilang mga pag-uugali. Halimbawa, ang mga batang anally expulsive become happy-go-lucky, very irresponsible, and overspender daw sa pera. Anong kinalaman ng anal expulsive sa overspender ng pera? Nasa substitute daw ng mga bata yung poops nila sa pera. Remember, anally expulsive kids, when they feel there's poops, they want to release. They carry over that attitude to their money. So, in the future, kapag naging adult na sila, akala nila yung pera, poops din, na kapag dumating, kinakailangan i-release agad. So, bibili agad ng cellphone, bibili agad ng mga kotse, bibili agad ng mga bagay na hindi naman kailangan. The reason why they're like that? Because they were anally expulsive when they were younger. Anally retentive naman baliktad. These people become stingy. Sobrang kuripot naman, no? Ibig sabihin, ayaw maglabas ng pera. Explanation, parang poops din. Anally retentive kids, when they feel poops, di ba? They hold on to the poops. Akala nila ganun din ang pera. Kapag may dumating na pera, i-hold on mo lang. to the point they become irrational about this. No, na minsan kahit kailangan na nilang bumili ng bagong toothbrush, kailangan na nilang bumili ng bagong damit kasi butas-butas na yung damit nila, hindi pa rin sila bibili, nasobrahan sa pagkokontrol. What else? They also become possessive kasi akala nila yung mga bagay-bagay sa mundo, halimbawa mga sapatos, mga tao, akala nila mga poops din na dapat kinokontrol nila, and they also become very controlling and obsessively compulsive. So yung mga tao mahilig mag-micromanage, yung mga taong mga diktador, tapos naiinis sila kung bakit hindi sila sinusunod, most likely mga anally retentive yan. That's the connection between the toilet training of the child and their personality. Marami akong mga naiisip na mga characters na sa tingin ko can perfectly express kung ano ibig sabihin ng anally expulsive and anally retentive, no? Like for example, going back, yung kapatid ni Dexter na si Didi sa Dexter's Laboratory, anally expulsive. She's very happy-go-lucky, she's very irresponsible, kaya naman yung kapatid niya, na opposite niya si Dexter, is anally retentive. Kaya lagi silang nag-aaway niyan eh. Madalas silang hindi nagkakasundo nung kanyang kapatid, no? Because of those personality differences. Nandyan din si Michelangelo sa Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Si Michelangelo isip bata, gusto lagi naglalaro, gusto laging kumakain. Kaya si Master Splinter, yung kanilang tatay-tatayan in the show, no? Lagi siya yung pinapagalitan. Kasi napaka-anally expulsive ni Michelangelo, very different from Leonardo. Leonardo is very good in leadership. Gusto niya ang mga bagay-bagay under control. Gusto niya lahat pinagpaplanuhan. That's why Master Splinter assigned Leonardo to be the leader of the Ninja Turtles. So magkaiba yung personality ni Michelangelo kay Leonardo. Very interesting yung mga cartoons na sinasabi ko, no? If you have time, watch some of the episodes of those cartoons. I highly recommend. Punta na ngayon tayo sa tinatawag nating phallic stage. During the phallic stage, from age 4 to 5 years old, the erogenous zone from the anus pupunta sa genital. In fact, the word phallic came from the root word phallus, which pertains to the male phallus. Dito ngayon naging sexist si Sigmund Freud according to some of his critics. Kasi nung ginagawa ni Freud yung theory na ito, he meant this theory to understand the male personality. Kaya yung mga neo-Freudians in the future after ni Freud saw this loophole in his theory, nirevise nila ng konti yung theory niya to also cover the female personality. Pero in the original context of Sigmund Freud, mukhang male psyche or male personality lang talaga yung gusto niyang pag-usapan. No? Pero itong dinidiscuss kong version sa inyo, this is already the more modern version of the psychodynamic theory. It also includes the personality of females. The main feature na nangyayari sa phallic stage, and I think this is where Freud really became popular, was his idea on unconscious sexual attraction. Sabi ni Freud, yung mga bata during this time, crush nila ang kanilang mga opposite sex parent. So si Junior, meron siyang unconscious sexual attraction sa kanyang mommy. Si Princess, meron siyang unconscious sexual attraction sa kanyang daddy. Dito na nanggaling yung terms na mama's boy and daddy's girl. Bakit ang boy na anak mas close sa nanay? Bakit ang daughter na anak mas close sa tatay? Very Freudian ang explanation. Ito yung tinatawag niyang Oedipus complex. When the child is sexually attracted to the opposite sex parent, ang tawag dyan in Freudian terms, Oedipus complex. You just research on your own saan nanggaling yung term na Oedipus, no? Bakit tinawag na Oedipus complex? But it has something to do with what happened to the Greek mythology, Oedipus Rex. So kayo na lang bahala magbasa nun, no? So again, during this time, the child is sexually attracted to the opposite sex parent. Ano ang magiging move ng bata para magustuhan siya ng kanyang opposite sex parent na crush niya? According to Freud, these children will undergo unconscious courtship. Liligawan nila yung kanilang opposite sex parent unconsciously. Because remember, i-emphasize ko lang ulit, no? Itong sexual attraction that they feel to their opposite sex parent unconscious. Hindi nila alam na meron sila niyan. In fact, kahit ikaw na nakikinig sa akin ngayon, hindi mo maaalala in your past that you were attracted to your opposite sex parent. In fact, marami sa inyo baka mandiri pa eh. Ha, talaga? Yak! No, never ko na feel yan. According to Freud, meron ka nun. Kaya mo lang hindi maalala because that feeling is found in your unconscious. So going back to children, ano ang gagawin nila to court their opposite sex parent? They are going to, anong gagawin nila sa sexual attraction nila sa opposite sex parent? They are going to unconsciously court their opposite sex parent. Paano? Through identification. They are going to imitate the personality of the same sex parent. And you know, this logically makes sense. Halimbawa, si Junior, sexually attracted siya sa nanay niya. Ang gagawin niya para magustuhan siya ng nanay niya, gagayahin niya yung ways ng tatay niya, the same sex parent. And the logic is, alam kasi nung unconscious na yung nanay ni Junior type yung tatay niya. Diba? Kaya nga niya asawa yung tatay kasi mahal niya yung tatay. So, sa iniisip ng unconscious, para magustuhan ka ni mommy, you have to show to your mom that you have a lot of personality traits na kahalintulad sa daddy mo. Doon na ngayon nagsisimula yung identification. Unconsciously, you get the ways of your same-sex parent para maging pogi points mo yon sa opposite sex parent mo para magustuhan ka niya. Hence the term, like father, like son, like mother, like daughter. Diyan ang galing yun eh. Ibig sabihin yan, sa lengguwahe ng Freudian analysis, no? Yung mga lalaki, most likely magmamana sa tatay, ang mga babae, most likely magmamana sa nanay. And the reason? This is their unconscious courtship of the opposite sex parent by identifying with the same sex parent. Ngayon, I want you to reflect on yourself right now given these things that Freud is saying, totoo ba ito sa'yo? Kung ikukumpara mo yung personality mo ngayon, let's say lalaki ka, kanino mas malapit ang personality mo? Kanino ka mas pareho? Towards mom or towards dad? Ganon din kung babae ka. Kanino mas malapit ang personality mo? Towards mom or towards dad? The rule is, the prediction is, like father, like son, like mother, like daughter. So kung nakikita mo na ganun nga, no? Kung lalaki ka, pareho ka sa daddy mo. Kung babae ka, pareho ka sa mami mo. Then, tama yung sinasabi ni Sigmund Freud. Pero yun nga ang tanong, no? Yung mga sinasabi ba na ito ni Sigmund Freud, universally totoo ba ito? Later we're going to talk about that. Okay? Let's move on to latency period from age 7 to 12 years old. During this time, no erogenous zone. Ibig sabihin, walang part ng body natin ang gusto nating ini-stimulate that gives us pleasure. Bakit? Yung sexual energy natin this time is spent towards non-sexual expressions. So wala ditong mga Oedipus complex, wala ditong mga attraction. Yung energy natin dito ay ginagastos natin sa mga activities like this. We use it for studying, for socializing with other children, for learning new skills. Yung sexual energy, diyan natin binubuhos. So wala siyang erogenous zone during this time. This is a very important period according to Freud for our own socialization. Dito na mas lalong lumalakas yung ating superego, pati na yung ating ego. Lalong-lalo na when children begin to enter schools. 'Di ba? Age 7, ito grade 1 yan eh. So during elementary years, yan talaga yung kasagsagan ng ating socialization into the society. Pinapalakas yung ating ego, pati yung ating superego. Lalabas ulit yung ating sexual energy age 13. Mga binata't dalaga na yung mga tao, this is the reawakening of sexual energy. Kumbaga parang merong nagigising na dragon. But this time, how is this different from the phallic stage? You are now attracted towards someone who is not your family member. Tandaan nyo, ang huling tao na naging type nyo during your development was your opposite sex parent. Pero this time, sabi ni Freud, kapag lumabas ulit yung erogenous zone mo, magkaka-crush ka na ngayon, maa-arouse ka na ngayon sa mga tao outside your family. But very interesting, sino kaya yung mga tao na magiging crush mo according to Freud? Freud answers, you are going to fall in love with people with whom nakikita mo yung opposite sex parent mo. Kapag pareho ng ugali yung tao na yon, pati yung opposite sex parent mo, marami silang personality similarity, most likely magiging crush mo yung taong yon. Kasi kumbaga nakikarry over mo no yung yung dati mong hinahanap sa opposite sex parent mo, nakikita mo sa isang babae, nakikita mo sa isang lalaki, that will make you fall in love with the person. Kaya alam nyo, itong sinasabi ni Freud on how sexual attraction works, no? Merong technique ito na Freudian on how to court the opposite sex. Alam nyo kung ano yon? Listen to this. Ang sabi ni Freud, if you show doon sa nililigawan mo that your personality is very much the same with the personality of the same no of the opposite sex parent, most likely sasagutin ka niyan. Halimbawa, si Junior, nililigawan niya si Princess. Malaki ang pag-asa ni Junior kapag nakita ni Princess na si Junior ay maraming personality traits na kahalintulad ng tatay ni Princess. In Freudian terms, we call that transference. 'Di ba? Na parang yung affection ni Princess doon sa tatay niya napupunta doon sa isa pang tao na kahalintulad ng tatay niya. So malaki ang pag-asa ni Junior na sagutin ni Princess kasi parang ang daming pagkakapareho ni Junior doon sa tatay ni Princess. That's why for those of you who are courting someone, and you want to apply this Freudian theory of attraction, pwede niyong gawin ito. Dapat makakitaan kayo ng mga ugali na meron yung tatay ng nililigawan nyo. Oras na makita nung babae na nililigawan nyo na yung tatay nila marami similarity sa personality mo, most likely malaki ang iyong pag-asa. Again, going back to the question, are all this true? Kasi yung mga sinasabi ni Freud, many scientists find this very intriguing and it's very hard to confirm in the laboratory. Ang tanong, maniniwala ba tayo sa mga sinasabi ni Freud? I don't think yung sinasabi ni Freud must be applied universally. Sa tingin ko, para malaman mo kung totoo ba yung sinasabi ni Freud, dapat ang analysis dyan only in the level of only in the personal level. Kaya nga, ang tanong ko sa iyo halimbawa doon sa Oedipus complex, no? Totoo ba na like father like son ka or like mother like daughter ka? Yung personality mo ba mas malapit doon sa same-sex parent mo? If your answer is yes, then maybe for you, the psychodynamic theory is true, but not for others. Kasi nga, yan ang hirap sa theory ni Freud, no? Hindi natin ma-confirm sa laboratory for us to generalize what Freud is saying about human personality. Hindi tayo makasigurado kung sa lahat ng tao nagwo-work nga ba yung theory ni Sigmund Freud. And one more issue na gusto kong i-open is nung ginawa ni Sigmund Freud yung theory, marami mga family setup noon marami mga family setup ngayon na wala noon. And Freud was not able to take into consideration those family setups. Halimbawa, ang magandang halimbawa dyan, yung single parenthood. During the time of Freud kasi, hindi ganun kauso ang single parenting. O kaya yung tinatawag nating allo-parenting. Hindi yung biological mother or father yung nagpalaki sa'yo. O, paano kung ang nagpalaki sa'yo, lola mo? Paano kung nagpalaki sa'yo yung auntie mo o yung uncle mo? O, paano mag-work ang Oedipus complex? Ganun pa rin ba yung dynamics kapag iba ang family setup? These are the things that Freud was not able to answer. Kasi nga, he was in a society where ang pinaka-common na family setup ay yung kumpletong pamilya. Pero ngayong modern times, marami ng mga klase ng pamilya. Meron nga mga pamilya ngayon, homosexuals ang mga magulang. Paano kung homosexuals ang mga magulang, pareho pa rin ba yung Oedipus complex? Oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital stage pa rin ba yung psychosexual stages? That we don't know, and it's hard to confirm in the laboratory. Let's move on to principle number 4. Personality can be an expression of defense mechanisms. Ibig sabihin, marami tayong mga ginagawa sa ating pang-araw-araw na buhay, akala natin ginagawa natin because we want to, because we were influenced by our friends, because we choose to. But in the Freudian language, marami tayong mga ginagawa, the reason why we're doing it, because it is our defense mechanism. So ginagawa mo ang bagay dahil yung bagay na yon, defense mechanism yan. Nagbabasketball ka, nagluluto ka, pwedeng madaldal ka, pwedeng mahilig ka sa art, kasi nagdi-defense mechanism ka. Okay, so mamaya bibigyan ko yun ng mga examples on how these things may happen, But first, intindihin muna natin ano ba yung defense mechanism. Ano ba yung gamit ng defense mechanism? Sabi ni Freud, parang nasa hayop lang yan eh. In fact, the term defense mechanism in itself, hiniram lang yan from biology. Ang mga animals, kung mag-aaral ka ng biology, lahat sila merong defense mechanisms. Defense mechanisms are there within animals so that they will not fall prey into predators para hindi sila makain ng mga mas malalaking mga animals sa kanila. Meron silang defense mechanisms. Yung pagong yung kanyang shell. Kapag nandyan yung kakain sa kanya, magtatago siya doon sa shell, mahirap kagatin yung shell. Makakaligtas ngayon siya. Yung mga porcupines, these are baby porcupines, defense mechanism, the spikes. Somebody attacks them, they use their spikes to protect themselves. Yung pusit, diba? Ang defense mechanism niyan, yung ink. Kapag mayroong kakain sa kanya, ilalabas niya yung ink niya, so mabubulag ngayon yung humahabol sa kanya, magkakaroon siya ng oras para tumakbo. So again, defense mechanisms in animals are meant to protect the existence of the animals. Sa ating human psyche, ang purpose ng defense mechanism is to protect us from the negative effects of our everyday problems in life. Sabi kasi ni Sigmund Freud, merong tayong mga problema sa buhay na pwede nating ika-breakdown. Pwedeng i-threaten yung psyche natin. Pwede tayong magkaroon ng personality illnesses or mental disorders. Problems like failures, rejection, forbidden desires, traumatic memories. Every day we encounter this eh. Bumagsak ka sa isang exam, binasad ka ng nililigawan mo, naloko ka ng business partner mo, nasunugan ka ng bahay, namatayan ka ng kamag-anak. These problems, when they combine, it can really negatively affect a person's personality. Pwede kang mag-breakdown dyan. Kaya nga sabi ni Freud, yung ating pag-iisip, yung ating psyche, gumawa ng mga defense mechanisms to protect us from these kinds of dangers para hindi tayo mental breakdown. Tanong, paano ginagawa o paano pinapagaan ng mga defense mechanisms yung mga problema na sinabi ko kanina? Well, ang root word, ang keyword na dapat yung tandaan in understanding defense mechanism is distortion. All defense mechanisms, dinidistort niya yung reality para mas madaling tanggapin, para hindi nakakabaliw na i-absorb yung mga problema natin sa buhay. It distorts reality. Babaguhin niya yung katotohanan. Meron siya mga papalitan doon sa mga problema na kinaharap mo ngayon na mas madali mo siyang ma-absorb. Mas magaan mo siyang ma-absorb para hindi ka maka-experience ng negative effects in your personality. And I hope you can realize right now na useful pala ang defense mechanism. 'Di ba? Masama kapag hindi tayo nagde-defense mechanism. Imaginein mo yon, para kang katawan na wala kang immune system. Ang dami-dami mga bacteria, viruses out there, kapag pinasok yung katawan mo, your body will just surrender to the negative effects of the virus and the bacteria. O ganun din sa ating psyche, no? Kapag wala tayong defense mechanism, tayo ay magme-mental breakdown. In the language of Freud, pwedeng maka-experience ka ng psychosis. Pwedeng mag-develop ka ng isang psychological disorder. Kasi totoo naman na kapag sobrang dami mong problema at wala kang depensa, wala kang defense mechanism, talagang magbe-breakdown ka sa dami ng problema natin in our everyday life. Like for example, kung naalala nyo in history, nung dumating ang bagyong Ondoy. Grabe ang problema na iniwan ng bagyong Ondoy. No? After umalis ang bagyong Ondoy, ang daming mga tao kinailangan ng defense mechanism to effectively handle the problem. But one thing about defense mechanism in relation to my example on Ondoy, merong mga problema ang tao na sobrang tindi, sobrang lakas ng epekto, sobrang lakas ng impact, na kahit ang defense mechanism hindi na kinakaya. Kaya alam nyo, nung nangyari ang bagyong Ondoy, ang dami mga tao nag-breakdown eh. 'Di ba? Ang dami mga tao nag-breakdown kasi sa isang iglap, lahat ng mga bagay na importante sa kanila nawala and they were not prepared for it. Yung kanilang ari-arian, yung kanilang health, yung kanilang mga mahal sa buhay, all of those things nawala sa isang iglap. They were not prepared. Hindi kinaya ng defense mechanisms nila, maraming nag-breakdown. Pero generally naman, karamihan naman ng mga problema natin, according to Freud, pwede naman ma-handle yan ng defense mechanism. Yun lang ang point ko, meron pa rin yung limit merong mga problema na sobrang lakas na kahit defense mechanisms hindi na kayang labanan. Kaya alam nyo ngayon, ako naniniwala during the time of pandemic, maraming taong nagdi-defense mechanism eh. Maraming mga tao ngayon tapos sila ng araw during the pandemic because they are using a lot of defense mechanisms. In fact, kung titingin ka lang sa internet, sa YouTube, you know, maraming mga tao ngayon, yung mga ginagawa nila can be explained by certain defense mechanisms. At yan yung gusto kong gawin nyo. No? As I discuss the different defense mechanisms, I want you to spot certain behaviors that people do in the internet na sa tingin nyo, posibleng defense mechanism nila. At magugulat ka, marami tayong mga nakikita in the media, both politics or in YouTube. Akala natin, kaya nila ginagawa yun kasi gusto nilang gawin. Pero kung titignan nyo, it's actually their defense mechanism. So, ang tanong, ano ba yung mga defense mechanisms na yan? Pag-usapan natin. The most common defense mechanisms are the following. Number 1, denial, also known as the mother of all defense mechanisms. Bakit siya mother of all defense mechanisms? Kasi raw, sabi ni Freud, lahat ng defense mechanism other than denial are also forms of denial. It's just that yung denial talagang direct denial of reality. Yung ibang defense mechanism, they partially accept reality but they deny some parts of it, no? So ang denial is when the unconscious pretends that a problem did not or will not happen. Magandang halimbawa dito yung mga dead-end relationships. Klarong-klaro naman hindi ka na mahal. Klarong-klaro naman may mahal lang iba, pero ang paniniwala mo, mahal ka pa rin yan. Ang paniniwala mo, kaya nyo pang ayusin yung relationship. Bakit ka naniniwala doon? Kasi dinideny ng unconscious mo na hindi ka na niya mahal. Kasi baka mag-breakdown ka kapag tinanggap mo ng buong buo na hindi ka na niya mahal. So your unconscious helps you to deny the idea that your partner no longer loves you. So gagawa siya ng mga excuses. Magbubulag-bulagan ka. Kaya malamig sa kanya kasi pagod lang sa trabaho yan. Kaya lang late umuwi yan kasi busy sa trabaho. Kaya lang nagte-text yan ng hating gabi kasi merong emergency sa work. And you sincerely believe those things because your unconscious is making you deny the reality na meron na siyang iba. O, diba? So, mag-comment dyan yung mga nakaka-relate yung paborito nilang defense mechanism, yung denial. Let's move on to repression. Repression is when a person hides unacceptable ideas. Tinatago niya under the carpet of the unconscious yung mga ideas na mahirap tanggapin. Yung mga ideas na baka ika-breakdown mo kapag tinanggap mo. Shameful, hard to accept facts about the self. Okay, so let's talk about how repression works. 3 levels of consciousness. Conscious, subconscious, unconscious. So, ang unconscious, lagi niyang binabantayan yung laman ng consciousness mo. Okay? Halimbawa, may isang idea pumasok sa consciousness mo, feeling mo magaling kang estudyante. The unconscious will ask a question. Is that idea harmful to the self? If the answer is no, then the unconscious will just let that go. Hahayaan lang niya yan dyan. So that idea that you're a good student, paikot-ikot lang yan sa conscious at saka sa subconscious. Pero, kapag may mga idea na harmful to the self, such as, for example, you realize that you're gay. At hindi pwede kang maging gay kasi ang pamilya mo conservative. Ang tatay mo pastor. Ikaw ang ginugroom na pastor ngayon. Magiging next senior pastor. And then, marirealize mo you're gay, baka ika-breakdown mo yan. Baka sobrang lakas ng guilt mo yan na hindi ka maka-function ng maayos. So, what unconscious will do is before you even realize that you're gay, anong gagawin niya? Itatago niya sa'yo yan. So, that's harmful to the self. Itatago niya yan. Ilalagay niya sa ilalim. Before you realize you're gay, oops, itatago niya yan dyan. And then, dyan na lang yan nakalagay sa unconscious mo. So you can only imagine kung ganyan ang logic ng repression, ano ang laman ng unconscious mo, lahat ng baho natin nandyan. Lahat ng sikreto natin nandyan. Lahat ng masakit, lahat ng pangit na riyan sa unconscious. At ang matindi pa dito sa unconscious, and by the way, ang tawag pala natin dyan sa lahat ng memorya, lahat ng ideas na nasa unconscious, repressed memories or repressed ideas. At ang sinasabi ni Freud, ang matindi sa mga repressed memories na ito, these repressed memories continuously affect our everyday behavior. So, ito na yung sinasabi ko, na marami tayong mga kaugalian, ginagawa natin, hindi dahil sa gusto nating gawin, but because these behaviors are the reflections of what is in our unconscious. Yan yung nakakatakot sa repressed memories. Hindi lang siya basta-basta nakatago in the unconscious, but every day, those repressed memories are linked to certain personality patterns that we do. Ang magandang example dito yung naging pasyente ni Sigmund Freud na si Anna O. In fact, ito yung kaso na kung saan naisip ni Freud yung ganyang idea na yung repressed memories natin may epekto yan sa ating mga personalities in the consciousness level. Ano bang nangyari kay Anna O? Isa si Anna O sa mga taong merong hysteria. Remember, in the first video, I defined what hysteria is. Balikan nyo na lang yun, no? So, ang simptomas ni Anna O sa hysteria, occasional mutism, occasional numbing and paralysis, and hydrophobia. Ibig sabihin ng occasional mutism, yung pabigla-bigla siyang napipipi for some reason. Pero mamaya-maya okay na ulit. Ganon din naman yung occasional numbing and paralysis. Yung biglang inaatake siya na hindi niya magalaw yung kamay niya, tapos maya-maya okay na ulit. Pero kung titignan mo yung mga nerves ni Anna O, wala namang mali. Healthy naman. Pero ang pinaka naiintriga si Freud sa simptomas ni Anna O, hydrophobia. Takot si Anna O sa tubig. Therefore, nagiging poor na yung hygiene ni Anna O, bihira siyang maligo, and dehydrated siya. Kasi hirap na hirap siyang uminom ng tubig, she does not feel good every time she sees water. Okay, so anong ginawa ni Sigmund Freud para maayos itong kaso ni Anna O? Well, guess what? Ang ginawa ni Freud, hinipnotize niya si Anna O. In the first video, I explained how hypnosis works. The function of hypnosis is to guide, alalayan yung tao from consciousness level down to the unconscious. So kaya tayo nag-hypnotize para makita natin kung ano ang laman ng unconscious ng isang pasyente, no? So to make the long story short, while Anna O was under in the state of trance, very important term in psychoanalytic language, trance means yung level of consciousness mo kapag nandoon ka sa unconscious. Diba, hinipnotize ka, galing ka dun sa consciousness level, no? So parang makakatulog ka, mapupunta ka ngayon sa unconscious. Now you are going to say some things while you are in the state of trance na hindi mo sinasabi, na hindi mo naaalala kapag nandoon ka sa consciousness level. So, yun ang tawag sa taong nandoon sa unconscious level. Nandoon siya sa state of trance. Meron silang mga nakikita, meron silang mga sinasabi na hindi nila sinasabi when they were in the consciousness level. So, si Anna O, while in the state of trance, nagkwento siya ng isang story na hindi niya sinabi, never niya sinabi kay Sigmund Freud when she was in the consciousness level. So, in the state of trance, sabi ni Anna O, she remembers one time during her childhood, she entered a big house. Inside the big house, there's a small room. She entered the small room and guess what she saw? Nakakita siya ng isang dog in that small room drinking from a glass of water. And she felt so disgusted. Sobrang nadiri daw siya sa nakita niya nung nakakita siya ng aso na umiinom sa tubig o umiinom sa baso ng tubig. Diring-diri daw siya. And when Anna O, right after Anna O told Freud this story, out of nowhere, all of a sudden, nawala yung trance ni Anna O, bumalik siya sa kanyang consciousness. So nagising si Anna O, and the first thing na hiningi ni Anna O kay Freud, baso ng tubig. At siya ay uminom ng uminom ng uminom. And this is surprising because Anna O is suffering from hydrophobia. Ibig sabihin, sa pananaw ni Freud, nung na-express ni Anna O yung isang repressed memory which was about the dog, gumaling yung hydrophobia ni Anna O. Nawala. So na-link yun ni Sigmund Freud, no? Bakit ba nawala yung hydrophobia ni Anna O? Dahil nakapag-express siya ng isang idea, ng isang repressed idea na nakakulong doon sa kanyang unconscious. So it looks something like this. Yung physical symptom ni Anna O doon sa consciousness level ay nakalink sa isang repressed memory in the unconscious. And by the time Ana O expressed that unconscious memory, ano nangyari? Nawala yung hydrophobia. So tinuloy ni Freud yung pag-hypnotize kay Ana O in many sessions at napansin ni Freud na tuwing nagkukwento si Ana O ng isang storya na nasa repressed, na nasa unconscious, that is a repressed memory, nawawala yung isang physical symptom. Halimbawa, kinuwento ni Ana O yan, nawala yung occasional mutism niya. Nung kinuwento ni Ana O yan, nawala naman yung occasional numbing niya hanggang sa ang ending, okay na si Ana O. Wala na siyang symptoms. Given this case by Ana O, Freud concludes that the way to a healthy personality is to express repressed memories. Yan yung paraan. If you want to have a healthy personality, get rid of your personality patterns na hindi magaganda. Pumunta ka raw sa isang psychotherapist to ask help para ma-express mo yung mga repressed memories mo. Although later on, medyo may comment ako dyan, no, kung dapat ba talagang pumupunta sa mga psychotherapist. No? Later, we'll talk about that. Anyway, yan yung pinaka-goal ng hypnotherapy. Maybe you are hearing this term. Ngayon, alam niyo na kung ano ang goal. Yung ginawa ni Freud kay Ana O, hypnotherapy yun eh. Okay, so hindi totoo na nag-hypnotize tayo para ma-inlove. Ma-inlove yung pasyente doon sa psychotherapist or para kunin yung credit card number ng pasyente, no? Oo. Hindi totoo yun. Kaya tayo nag-hypnotherapy para makita natin kung ano ang laman ng unconscious ng isang pasyente. Ang tawag nila dito, psychological excavation. Hinuhukay mo yung laman ng unconscious ng pasyente para maging okay siya sa kanyang conscious personality. Other ways to explore repressed memories according to Freud, pinag-usapan na natin yung iba dito, no? Dream analysis. Everything that you see in your dreams, yung giant hotdog, yung aso, nalulunod ka, pinatay ka, yung kutsilyo, all of those things that you see in your dreams, these are symbols of repressed memories. Repressed memories in symbol form. Kaya mo ini-interpret yung mga symbols para malaman mo kung anong repressed idea yung meron ka. And again, you need the help of a psychotherapist para magawa mo yan. Hindi pwedeng lahat ng tao nagdi-dream analysis. Meron yang mga correct procedures on how to do dream analysis the right way, no? Other than dream analysis, meron din tayong alcohol or being intoxicated. Alam nyo ba kapag ang tao lasing, kapag ang tao intoxicated or bangag sa droga, ini-expose niya yung mga laman ng kanyang unconscious sa mga kasama niya. This is how it works. Yung unconscious kasi natin, sabi ni Freud, meron yang mga seals or gate na nakalock. You know, para yung mga ideas dyan, hindi yan pupunta sa subconscious, hindi yan pupunta sa consciousness. But when a person begins to drink and becomes drunk, pag parami ng parami yung alcohol mo sa katawan o dumadami yung droga mo sa katawan, ang nangyayari, sabi ni Freud, nawawala yung boundary, nawawala yung gateway ng unconscious. And when that happens, the contents of your unconscious are now free to travel from unconscious to the subconscious papunta sa consciousness. At ano ang itsura ng taong ganyan? Yung lahat, yung mga bagay na yan napupunta sa consciousness, di ba? Yung mga lasing, seemingly walang kwenta yung mga sinasabi, parang random, parang kalokohan. Kaya yung mga tao, ang stance dyan, wag mo na lang pansinin yung sinasabi kasi lasing na. So parang dinidisregard natin yung mga sinasabi kapag lasing, simply because lasing na siya, hindi raw niya alam yung sinasabi niya. Although totoo naman yun. Mababa ang level of awareness kapag lasing, pero yung mga contents ang sinasabi ng taong lasing, in the language of Freud, totoo. Yun yung mga bagay na talagang matagal na niyang tinatago-tago. Kaya kapag narinig mo yung isang lasing, umaamin na mahal niya yung best friend niyang lalaki, most likely totoo yun. Sinasabi niyang crush niya yung boss niya, most likely totoo yun. Kasi yun yung laman ng unconscious niya, nakawala, napunta na sa consciousness level. Kaya alam nyo, para sa mga nakikinig sa akin ngayon na umiinom, lesson dito, if you don't like other people to see kung ano ang laman ng unconscious mo, huwag kang maglasing sa harap nila. Kasi when you do, you have the tendency to just release the contents of your unconscious publicly. O, malas mo pa kung yung mga kainuman mo, mga psych majors, di kinabukasan, kilalang kilala ka na nila. Alam na nila kung sino ka. Di ba? Another lesson here, kung hindi ka naman manginginom, you would realize that people are the most honest. People are the most sincere kapag sila ay lasing or bangag. Ibig sabihin, wala na kasing sikre-sikreto. Lahat ng mga bagay na tinatago nila lumalabas na when you hear them say these things when they are drunk. Kaya kung gusto mo mas makakilala ng tao, no, ang lesson dito, pakinggan mo yung mga sinasabi nila whenever they are intoxicated or whenever they are tipsy. Most likely, yung mga sinasabi nila during those times ay mga katotohanan. Number 3, may tinatawag din tayong sublimation. The unacceptable desire that you have is converted into more acceptable forms. Halimbawa, unconsciously meron kang kagustuhan na patayin yung teacher mo. Galit na galit ka sa teacher mo. But that's socially unacceptable. So the unconscious will sense this. Para hindi mo masense yan at ma-feel guilty ka, kukunin niya kaagad yan from your consciousness level. And the unconscious will convert that into something more acceptable. Biglang meron kang mood na maglaro ng violent video games. Parang gusto mo na lagi nagteteken. Parang gusto mo na lagi nagko-call of duty. Yun na yung naging ugali mo in the consciousness level. So, aakalain mo na ugali mo yan dahil yan talaga yung gusto mong ugali. Pero kung titignan mo, yung kagustuhan mo sa violent video game, it is just a sublimation of a deeper desire to kill your teacher. Yan ang sinasabi ko. Kaya marami tayong mga behaviors ngayon. Tanungin mo sarili mo, gusto mo ba talaga ginagawa yung behavior na yan? Or ikaw ay nagsasublimate lang? Another example, gusto mong makipag-premarital sex. Pero hindi pwede kasi anak ka ng pastor. Ikaw yung next head pastor ng church nyo at ikaw ang founder and president ng True Love Waits in college. Ikaw ang nagpauso ng chastity ring. Ang lahat mo nang may suot nun, kinakailangan i-maintain nila yung virginity nila until the day they get married. Ikaw ang presidente nun. Ikaw ang nagpauso nun. So, hindi pwedeng ma-feel mo yan. So, the unconscious will snatch it away from you, pero i-convert niya into something more acceptable para kahit papano, ma-express mo pa rin. All of a sudden, gusto mo ng nude painting. Kaya pag pumasok ka sa kwarto ng taong ito, puro nude painting. Tapos sasabihin ng taong ito, alam mo kasi kaya ako gusto ng nude painting, I feel so much, I feel my humanity whenever I look at the human body. Yan, mga ganyan sasabihin niya. I feel so connected with the human spirit, kaya ako gusto ng nude painting. Napaka-sincere na mga paintings na ito, pero lahat yun hindi totoo. Kaya mo gusto ng nude painting kasi meron kang sublimation of premarital sex. Gusto mo talaga makipag-sex sa taong hindi kasal o hindi ka pa kasal, gusto mong makipag-sex. Yun kaya ka mahilig sa nude painting. Di ba? Kaya nga alam nyo. Again, going back to this issue, marami mga tao, may mga ginagawa sila, it's a form of sublimation. Ang paninigarilyo, pwedeng sublimation yan. Unconsciously, meron kang desire na sobrang sama, kinonvert na lang into something more acceptable such as smoking. O yung mga nangongolekta ng mga kung ano-ano, di ba? Sneakerheads, marami yan sa YouTube. Nangongolekta ng relo. At kung ano-ano pang mga kinokolekta, in the Freudian language, those things that they are collecting, pwedeng it is a form of sublimation. Meron silang mga unconscious desires na hindi maganda deep inside, kinonvert lang yan ng unconscious nila to be more socially acceptable. Tulad ng pangongolekta nga ng mga bagay-bagay. Okay? Kaya karamihan ng mga kakilala nyo sa YouTube na nagko-collect ng something, it's possible na sila ay nagsasublimate. Nagsasublimate ng ano? That we don't know. Kinakailangan mo ng isang psychotherapist para malaman mo kung yung pangongolekta nga niya is a result of sublimation or talagang sincere lang talaga siyang mangolekta ng bagay na yun. Number 4, meron tayong tinatawag na reaction formation when you do the opposite of your desired behavior. Meron kang gustong gawin, pero yung gusto mong gawin, very socially unacceptable. So, ang gagawin ni unconscious para hindi ka ma-feel bad na nararamdaman mo yung bagay na yon o gusto mong gawin yung bagay na yon, gagawin niyang kabaliktaran. At yun yung ilalagay niya sa iyong consciousness level. Halimbawa, hate mo si God. Pero yung idea na yan, hindi pwede kasi ikaw nga ang pastor. How can you be a pastor if you hate God? O kaya ikaw yung kinukonsider na maging next na Santo Papa. Naku, hindi pwede yan. malaking balakid yan sa karir mo. You will feel bad when you sense that you hate God. So the unconscious will get that from the consciousness and convert it into something opposite para ma-convince ka na wala ka talagang ganong feeling. So you become a religious fanatic. Akala mo religious fanatic ka kasi love na love mo si God. What you don't know is religious fanatic ka kasi deep inside, you hate God. Binabaliktad mo. Alam nyo, meron itong magandang example sa Bible, no? Nung pinagalitan ni Jesus yung mga Pharisees, "Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you are like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside are full of dead men's bones and everything unclean. In the same way, on the outside, you appear to people as righteous, but on the inside, you are full of hypocrisy and wickedness." Kitang-kita nyo dito yung reaction formation. Yung mga Pharisees during those times, sobrang religyoso. Lahat ng iniuutos sa Old Testament talagang striktong sinusunod ng mga Pharisees. Pero deep inside, kung titignan mo yung reaction formation, the reason why they're doing that, it's not because they want to do it, it's because nagre-reaction formation sila towards their hatredness to God. Kaya nila ginagawa yon yung pagsunod sa Biblia dahil hate nila ang Diyos. Di ba parang baliktad? Yun nga yung ginagawa ng reaction formation Kaya naman nung si Jesus, He claimed to be God. Nung sinabi niyang Diyos siya, totoo naman yung Diyos naman talaga si Jesus, no? Doon lumabas yung enerhiya na tinatago ng mga Pharisees of hating God. In what way did they express that? They crucified Jesus. Sila ang gumawa ng paraan para ma-crucify si Jesus. Ikaw pala yung Diyos na hate namin, i-crucify ka namin. But before that, before crucifixion, very clearly ang mga Pharisees nagre-reaction formation. Following the law, but their hearts are far away from God. Because the truth is, they hate God. That's reaction formation from Matthew 23:27 to 28. In the Filipino experience, ito yung tinatawag natin nasa loob ang kulo. Diba? Meron tayong ganyang kasabihan. Ibig sabihin yung pinapakita niya, meron pa siyang mas deeper na gustong ipakita. Halimbawa, pinapakita niyang lalaking lalaki siya. Machong macho, gustong magsundalo. Merong tato ng barko. Pero nasa loob ang kulo, deep inside, hindi pala totoong lalaking lalaki siya. Ang totoo pala, gusto niya maging babae. May mga ganyang instances Nagre-reaction formation lang. Nagmamacho-machuhan lang, pero deep inside, hindi naman pala talaga siya macho. And one more thing that you need to realize about reaction formation, minsan yung mga bagay na nakarepress, sa sobrang lakas, hindi na kinakaya na gawing opposite ng unconscious. Ang nangyayari, ang ginagawa na lang ng unconscious, pinapasabog na lang niya from unconscious papunta sa consciousness. Kaya minsan sa sobrang lakas ng repressed idea, bigla na lang lumalabas sa consciousness niyan, boom! Bigla na lang naging baby gandang hari. Sa sobrang lakas ng desire ng taong ito na maging babae, bigla na lang siyang naging baby gandang hari. So hindi lahat ng nasa repressed memory kinakaya ng unconscious na i-handle. Sa sobrang lakas ng drive, minsan nag-i-straight yan papunta sa consciousness level. One more thing about reaction formation na napaka dapat yung matutunan, no, is this also includes emotions. Kasi yung kaninang example ko more on behaviors, no? Dito emotions. Reaction formation can also be feeling the opposite of what you really feel. Alam niyo yung kasabihang the more you hate, the more you love? Diyan nang galing yon, reaction formation yon. Halimbawa, sa consciousness mo, na-realize mo na mahal mo yung ka-office mate mo. Pero hindi pwede. That is a very forbidden desire that you have. Kasi, siguro, yung office mate mo may asawa. O kaya ikaw mismo meron ka ng asawa. Kaya hindi mo pwedeng maramdaman yan. Nakaka-guilty. Parang ang sama-sama mo, may asawa ka o may asawa yung office mate mo, and yet you love her. So before you can sense that, the unconscious will snatch that away from you, i-convert niya yan into something opposite para ma-realize mo, para maipakita sa'yo na wala ka talagang ganong feeling. So from love, magiging hate. Lagi mo ngayon siyang inaaway, lagi mo siyang minumura, lagi kang naiinis kapag nakikita mo yung mukha niya. You are saying bad things about her sa mga kaibigan mo. Bakit ka ganon? Bakit ganon yung personality mo? Not because you have chosen to, but because this is a reflection of something deeper. Mahal mo talaga siya, kaya ka ganon. Anong kasabihan niya? The more you hate, the more you love. Diba? Lagi kang galit sa kanya, Pero pag absent, hinahanap-hanap mo. Pag absent siya, ang lungkot-lungkot mo, wala kang gana magtrabaho. Kaya gulong-gulo yung mga kaopisina mo sa'yo. 'Di ba? Sabi mo, hate mo siya, pero ba't malungkot ka nung absent siya? Bakit parang na-depress ka nung nalaman mong lilipat na siya ng company na magre-resign na siya? Kasi nga, all this time, nagre-reaction formation ka. The more you hate, the more you love. Meron akong alam na kanta, no, that reflects reaction formation. I love the way you lie. I think that song perfectly reflects what reaction formation means. Sabi nung singer, dito sa kantang I love the way you lie, I can tell you what it really is. I can only tell you what it feels like. Diyan pa lang, kitang-kita nyo na yung unconscious, no, yung pagka-unconscious ng feeling. Hindi niya masabi kung ano yon, pero alam niya nasa loob niya. May nararamdaman daw siya. Ano yon? In love daw siya. Love somebody so much you can barely breathe, sabi. Gano'n niya kamahal. So sobrang in love niya, hirap na hirap siyang huminga. Pero whenever you look at that person, you're getting sick of looking at them. Alam mong mahal mo siya, pero pag nandiyan siya, naiinis ka. You swore you'd never hit them, never do nothing to hurt them. Pero tuwing magkasama kayo ng taong mahal mo, nagaganyanan kayo. 'Di ba? Spewing venom in your words, you spit at them, you pull each other's hair, scratch, claw, hit them, throw them down, pin them. Ganyan ang itsura nyo. Nag-aaway kayo. Inaaway mo yung taong sinasabi mong loves na loves mo. Reaction formation. Deep inside, you love the person, pero hindi yun yung pinapakita mo. Diba? Tapos, kapag napuno na sa'yo yung taong inaaway mo, aalis na siya, ayaw mo naman. Sasabihin mo, I didn't mean it. Please come back. I love you too much. Balik ka na sa loob. This is my fault. Ayusin ko na. Pero ganun na naman. The next time magkita kayo, gaganyanan na naman kayo. Pero yung girl dito, hindi ko alam, siguro psych major, siguro nakinig sa lecture ko on reaction formation, okay lang daw. Sabi niya, just gonna stand there and watch me burn. That's alright because I like the way it hurts. Just gonna stand there and hear me cry. That's alright because I love the way you lie. Gets nyo? Bakit it's alright? Bakit I like? Bakit I love the way you lie? Nagigets nung girl na kaya siya ginaganon nung guy. That's the way the guy expresses his love for her. Alam niya na yung mga sinasabi nung guy tuwing nag-aaway sila, these are just lies. Because the truth is, deep inside, this guy loves me. Nagre-reaction formation lang siya, kaya niya ako ginugulpi. At alam niya yon. Alam niya na nagre-reaction formation lang yung guy. Maliwanag. Ang tanong, ito, clinical question. In the first place, bakit ba yung guy kinakailangan pa niya i-convert yung kanyang pagmamahal into something opposite, such as violence? Bakit hindi na lang niya i-express yung kanyang love sa girl as is? Bakit nagdi-defense mechanism pa siya? Yan yung dapat alamin ng psychotherapist. So kapag pumunta ito sa isang psychotherapist, yan ang magiging goal. Ano ang nangyari sa'yo in your childhood that may explain why your unconscious is converting your love to become hate? Ano bang nangyari sa'yo? May reason yan for sure. And once that guy realizes kung ano ang nangyari sa kanya from his past, then magiging mas klaro na. Pwede na niyang ma-express yung love niya as is. Hindi na niya kinakailangan mag-defense mechanism. And speaking of reaction formation, alam niyo ba, this is one of the few defense mechanisms na na-confirm sa laboratory. Karamihan kasi sa mga defense mechanisms ni Freud, ang hirap i-convert o ang hirap pag-aralan in the laboratory. But reaction formation na-confirm nila na totoo nga in the laboratory. In this study, psychologists got 3 groups of people. Mga homophobics, galit sa mga gays, mga non-homophobics, wala silang issues sa gay, at mga homosexuals. Definitely walang issues sa gay because they are gays. And then in this study, etong 3 grupong ito, pinanood sila ng gay porn. Gay porn. At ang gustong malaman ng mga psychologists, sino sa mga grupong ito ang pinaka-sexually aroused in watching gay porn? Siyempre, ang hypothesis dyan is, ang pinaka-ma-arouse dyan, homosexuals. Kasi they do that. Diba? Pero, nakita nila, when they measured the arousal level, the sexual arousal level while watching gay porn, ang pinaka-na-arouse is the homophobics. At hindi nila pwedeng itanggi yan kasi, in this study, yung way of measuring Sexual arousal, very physiological. Meneasure yung kanilang heart rate, meneasure yung kanilang blood pressure, meneasure yung mga activities within their genitalia, the galvanic skin response, undeniable. Ang pinaka na-arouse, yung mga homophobics. Pero sinasabi nila, ayaw nila sa homosexuality or homosexuality behaviors. And yet, they are the ones who are the most aroused. Anong tawag doon? Nagre-reaction formation kasi. Last one, we have projection. This is a defense mechanism where we pass or reflect unacceptable ideas to other people. Meron kang mga unacceptable desires na ikaw ang meron, pero para ma-convince ang sarili mo na hindi ikaw yon, na wala ka nun, ang gagawin ni unconscious, hahanap siya ng ibang tao, doon niya ngayon ipoproject yung mga desires na yon. For example, meron kang desire to cheat on your girlfriend. As we know, syempre, masama yan. Hindi dapat tayo nanloloko ng tao. Hindi pwede yan kasi 8 years na kayo ng girlfriend mo. No? Kayo, kumbaga kayo yung model couple ng buong barangay. Kapag sinabi mong isang matibay na relasyon, kayong dalawa yan. Kaya hindi mo pwedeng pagbigyan yung drive na yan na mag-cheat ka sa girlfriend mo, the unconscious will snatch that away from your consciousness. Papalitan niya yan into something what? Yan. Ipapasa mo ngayon yan sa partner mo. Hindi ikaw ang meron yan. Yung partner mo ang meron yan. Kaya out of nowhere, biglang selos na selos ka sa girlfriend mo. May iba ka sigurong lalaki, no? Kahit na wala namang ginagawa yung girlfriend mo. Bakit ka ganyan? Bakit mo pinaghihinalaan yung girlfriend mo? Bakit naging ugali mo yan? Not because meron talagang dahilan, but because ikaw talaga ang may ganyang desire to cheat. Pinapasa mo lang sa ibang tao. Kaya alam nyo, malaki ang implication nito, no, sa Filipino experience. At yung tinatawag nating takot tayo sa ating sariling multo. Meron tayong multo, meron tayong ginawang masama, takot tayo na yung ibang tao gagawin din sa atin yun. O, diba? Kaya ang magandang application dito, alam nyo, pwede nyo itong gamitin to spot infidelity in relationships. Halimbawa, yung boyfriend mo out of nowhere biglang selos na selos. Na wala ka namang ginagawa, ha? Dapat wala kang ginagawa. At wala kang ginawa in the past that may explain kung bakit siya nagsiselos. Talagang out of nowhere, wala namang dahilan, wala kang ginagawa, pero bigla siya nagselos. Bigla ka niya pinaghihinalaan na may iba ka, guess what? Baka siya ang meron nun. Baka meron siyang ginawa in the past na hindi mo alam, nirepress ng unconscious niya, pinapasa niya sa'yo. Kaya ikaw ang dapat mas magduda na baka siya ang meron. Baka siya ang meron tendency o may ginawa na panloloko. Diba? Knowing projection, you can easily spot that. Pero again, uulitin ko, dapat siguraduhin mong walang dahilan. Oo. Kasi kung may ginawa ka naman dati, nahuli ka, o tapos napapraning siya sa'yo ngayon, kasalanan mo yun. Totoo naman talaga na may dahilan. This only works for those couples na wala kang ginawa whatsoever. Out of nowhere, bigla ka niya pinaghinalaan, most likely, may ginawa yan in the past. And one more thing I want you to realize about projection is, another way to further understand yourself is, you analyze the things you hate towards other people. You become the people that you hate. Yan yung sinasabi ng projection. You are the people that you hate. Kaya one way for you to analyze yourself, ilista mo sa isang papel yung mga pet peeves mo. You remember pet peeves? Yung mga bagay na inis ka sa mga tao, ilista mo sa isang notebook. And then you sincerely ask yourself, baka ikaw rin ganun. Baka kaya hate mo yung mga taong ganyan kasi ikaw mismo ganun. Hindi mo lang nare-realize na sa unconscious level mo kasi. Pero hindi kaya galit na galit ka sa mga taong ganyan. Galit na galit ka sa mga taong hindi nagbabayad ng utang. Galit na galit ka sa mga homosexuals. Baka naman kasi ikaw mismo ganun din. Diba? Usually, yung mga bagay na galit na galit ka sa ibang tao, ikaw ang meron nun. Yun yung sinasabi ni Sigmund Freud sa kanyang theory, sa kanyang defense mechanisms na projection. Okay? So, after everything we discussed right now, okay, ano kaya yung mga pwede nating matutunan sa theory ni Sigmund Freud? Before we leave his theory, ano ba yung mga life lessons na pwedeng maituro sa atin ni Sigmund Freud? Una, the first 5 years of life is very critical for positive personality development. Alam nyo, dapat yung ma-realize ito, no? Lalong-lalo na when you become future parents. Hindi kayo dapat mawala sa presence ng buhay ng inyong mga anak, especially during the formative years, from 0 to 5 years old. Dahil dito maraming psychologically nangyayari sa bata na pwedeng merong epekto sa kanyang personality in the future. And as parents, dapat nakatuto kayo doon sa mga events na yon during the first 5 years of life. Tulad ng the following: development of conscience, development of the ego, shaping a healthy oral stage. Kaya alam nyo, even in studies na napakita na yan, no, na maraming masamang nangyayari sa personality ng bata kapag ang mga magulang walang present sa buhay nila during the first 5 years. And vice versa, when parents are there during the first 5 years of a child's existence, mas nagiging maganda yung kanilang personality development. If you want to read more about that, you read this journal article by Michael Rutter. Good article to explain what Freud was talking about. Number 2, ang sinasabi ni Sigmund Freud sa kanyang teorya, most aspects of ourself is unconscious. Paraphrase, we are not always aware of the reasons of our patterns. Marami tayong mga bagay na nararamdaman, marami tayong mga actions sa ginagawa na sa totoo lang hindi natin alam yung dahilan. Dapat maging open tayo sa idea na yon. We don't always understand the reason why we feel or we do things. Kaya ang good news dito is, even if we are not aware why we are doing what we are doing, meron namang way. Meron namang way on how to explore the unconscious. Diba? Yan yung sinasabi ni Freud eh. Hindi naman to something impossible to do. Pwede mo namang i-explore yung iyong unconscious para magkaroon ka ng deeper understanding. That's the way for a deeper understanding. Explore your unconscious. How? Sinabi na natin yan. Unang-una, pwede kang pumunta sa isang psychotherapist to help you further understand yourself. Pero ang issue ko dyan, ako sa tingin ko, hindi dapat psychotherapist ang unang pinupuntahan ng tao if we want to get to know ourselves better. I think it's best for us to seek God first before we seek psychotherapy. After all, if there is one person in this world na pinakakilala tayo, it's not the psychotherapist, it's God Himself who made us. Tandaan nyo, ang mga psychotherapists, may mga unconscious din yan. Sila nga mismo, ang mga psychotherapists mismo, hindi naiintindihan yung unconscious nila eh. So, ang logic, bakit ka pupunta sa isang tao na hindi rin nila naiintindihan yung sarili nila? At ang gusto mo, maintindihan mo yung sarili mo. I have nothing against psychotherapists, alright? I mean, if psychotherapy works for you, then go ahead. Go to psychotherapist. Pero para sa akin, mas nagme-make sense if you go to a being who knows you the best, and that is your Creator, God Himself. David said in one of his Psalms, "You have searched me, Lord, and you know me, and you know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar." Ganyan katindi ang level of understanding ng Diyos sa sarili mo. He knows who you are. He knows your thoughts from afar. O kanino ka pa pupunta? I don't think a psychotherapist is in this kind of level of knowledge about yourself. After all, God made you. Alam niya ang lahat about sa'yo. So kung meron kang katanungan sa sarili mo, search through His words. Pray for it. Ask God to reveal to you the answers to your question about yourself before you go to psychotherapy. Diba? In another Psalm, sabi ni David, "Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." Ganyan katindi ang pagkakakilanlan ng Diyos sa'yo. And I don't think a psychotherapist, again, is in that level of knowledge about yourself. Sila mismo, hindi naiintindihan ang kanilang mga sarili. Again, I have nothing against psychotherapy. My issue here is how psychotherapy is done. Sa tingin ko, ang psychotherapy, para mas maging effective, dapat kinoconsider yung Diyos sa problema ng tao. After all, a human being is a spiritual being. The nature of God is that He is spirit. He created spiritual beings like us. Spiritual beings have spiritual problems. Therefore, the solutions to those spiritual problems are spiritual solutions. And the spiritual solutions, the source of that, is God Himself. Kaya ako naniniwala, okay rin naman yung psychotherapy, pero dapat ang psychotherapy hindi siya 100% secular. Hindi ka lang CBT ng CBT. Hindi ka lang hypnotherapy ng hypnotherapy eh. Kinakailangan mo i-consider yung role ng Diyos, ng spirituality ng tao in helping people to solve their problems. After all, we are spiritual beings with spiritual problems that require spiritual solutions. What I'm saying here is God is the ultimate psychotherapist. John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. I want to focus on the truth. God will reveal to you the truths about yourself. Marami kang bagay hindi alam sa sarili mo because it's in your unconscious. Guess what? God knows your unconscious. Kaya nga 'di ba yun yung sinasabi ni David sa mga prayers niya, search me, O God, and find things that I don't know about myself. Because God can clearly see what's in your unconscious. And if you only ask Him, if you only work for this, ask Him about this through His Word, reflect on it, pray for it, He will reveal it to you. He will shed light to who you are. After all, God is light. I am the light of the world, diba? Yan yung ibig sabihin nun. God enlightens you about who you are. You have questions about yourself, you don't understand about yourself, God knows. Again, let me repeat, paulit-ulit na ako dito, I have nothing against psychotherapy. It's more on how psychotherapy should be done. You read the literature on psychotherapy, meta-analysis, alam nyo, harapin na natin. Hindi ganun kataas ang success rate ng mga secular psychotherapy. Ang mga taong puro CBT lang, puro ka lang hypnotherapy, at kung ano-ano pang mga theories dyan, na hindi sinasama ang spirituality ng tao, mababa ang success rates. And if you read the literature on spirituality, guess what? Marami ng mga psychologists ngayon ang sinasabi, mas nagiging mataas ang success rate ng isang therapy kapag sinasama ang spirituality ng tao in the treatment plan. Kapag kasama ang Diyos sa treatment plan, mas mataas ang nagiging success rate compared to approaches that are very secular. Approaches that don't include God. Again, God is the ultimate spirit, and He created us as spiritual beings. We are spiritual beings with spiritual problems which require spiritual solutions. And God is the ultimate spirit who gives us those spiritual solutions. So again, if you want to get to know yourself more, go to God first before to any psychotherapist. And number 3, we should be less judgmental of others. I mean, this is one thing that Freudian theory will teach you 'di ba? Na ang hirap talagang i-pinpoint o i-explain with 100% accuracy why a person has that personality. Meron kasi tayong tinatagong yabang minsan no, na naiintindihan natin ng tao. Kaya siya ganyan kasi, kaya siya ganito kasi. 'Di ba parang we are so sure why a person is like this. Ang gagaling natin mag-explain. Pero tatandaan natin, something deeper explain this that you and them don't even know. Bakit siya lasenggo? Bakit siya mahilig e-cigarette, mag-vape? Bakit siya babaero? You think you know better? Guess what? Psychodynamic theory will teach you a lot of the things we do, other people wouldn't understand. At ikaw mismo, you wouldn't understand. So who are you to be so confident in explaining why a person is acting in a certain way? Ni sarili mo nga, hindi mo maintindihan So bakit ka magja-judge na alam mo why a person is that way? 'Di ba? Maraming maraming mga kanta na ganyan Na parang pag pinakinggan mo yung kanta, parang matatangahan ka doon sa kumakanta pero hindi mo dapat ginajudge na tanga yung kumakanta. Halimbawa, yung kantang Bakit nga ba mahal kita? Kahit di pinapansin ang damdamin ko, di mo man ako mahal, ito pa rin ako nagmamahal ng tapat sa'yo. Bakit nga ba mahal kita kahit na may mahal ka mang iba, ba't baliw na baliw ako sa'yo? Hanggang kailan ako magtitiis o bakit nga ba mahal kita? Sabihin ng mga nakakarinig, ang tanga naman ito. Hindi ka na nga mahal, bakit mo pa binabalikan? Hindi ka na nga mahal, bakit? Bakit ganyan? Ba't bumabalik ka pa dyan? Kasi tanga ka. Pero hindi tama yun Di ba? Kasi for all you know, alam mo ba kung bakit siya bumabalik bakit hindi niya mapakawalan yan? Maybe merong unconscious reason niya na may kinalaman sa childhood niya that this person still holds on to that person kahit hindi na logical. After all, we are not always logical in what we do. Almost everything we do, a lot of things we do can be explained by unconscious forces. Ikaw ba alam mo kung ano yung unconscious niya, kaya siya ganyan? Siya nga mismo, baka hindi niya alam eh. So who are you to judge this person? Sa kanya pa rin babalik, sigaw ng damdamin. Sa kanya pa rin sasaya, bulong ng puso ko. Kung buhay pa ang alaala ng ating nakaraan, ang pagmamahal at panahon alay pa rin sa kanya. O, sabihin mo na naman, tanga na naman. Alam mo, ang ex hindi na binabalikan yan. Dapat ganito ka, bla bla bla. Magsasabi ka pa ng mga psychological theories, bla bla bla. Pero alam mo ba yung nasa unconscious niya kung bakit hindi niya mapakawalan yung ex niya? Malamang sa malamang hindi ka naman psychotherapist, di ba? Siya nga mismo hindi niya alam, ikaw pa alam mo. So don't judge people on what they do. Now, hindi ko naman sinasabing huwag na tayong mag-explain ng behavior. Ang sinasabi ko, yung manner, the way we explain people's behavior, hindi dapat tayo 100% sure na, ito yun. Kaya siya ganyan kasi ito ang dahilan. Because most of the time, we don't know the reason. Because the reason is unconscious. They don't know what's in their unconscious, lalong-lalo ka na, hindi mo alam. That's why don't play psychotherapist if you're not one. Don't play God if you're not one. Yan ang sinasabi ko dyan. Diba? We should be less judgmental of explaining people's behaviors. I think that's one of the reasons why the Bible, ang paulit-ulit na value na tinuturo sa atin is we need to be slow to judge. Huwag tayo laging judgmental. Huwag tayo laging merong ready-made explanation to make sense of people's behaviors. Instead of being like that, ang sabi ng book of James, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. Quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. Yan yung attitude of not being judgmental. You don't know everything about the person. That person does not know everything about himself or herself. So who are you to judge? So imbis na i-judge mo siya, kung bakit niya nararamdaman yun, damayan mo na lang siya. 'Di ba? Pag-usapan niyo, quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. Huwag mo sabihang tanga. Huwag mo sabihan you're not making sense. Turuan mo siyang i-explore, turuan mo siyang i-proseso yung mga nararamdaman niya. Alright? So yan yung mga major ideas na sinabi ni Sigmund Freud sa kanyang psychodynamic theory. Again, hindi ko pa lahat nasabi dito because, the entire psychodynamic theory, it's very broad. We don't have enough time to discuss everything, but I believe I have discussed the most important ones and the ideas, the psychodynamic ideas sa may kinalaman sa ating everyday life. If you know anyone who needs to hear this lecture, interesado kay Freud, or gusto nyong malaman nila yung mga sinabi ko dito, well, you have my permission to share this video. Pakishare na lang sa kanila. Okay, so thank you for listening everyone. Until next time, dito sa Libreng Sit-In, Theories of Personality. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye and God bless.